On February 22nd, a great man was born. He allowed a country to rise and influence the entire world. On the same day, a great country won a fierce naval battle, determined the ownership of a sea area, which has an impact to this day. On this day, humans flew to Mars for the first time. A new era of interstellar exploration has begun. Let's take a look back at this day in history. George Washington was born in Virginia on February 22, 1732, a family of plantation owners. He received a good education from an early age. As a young man, he was a surveyor and a British colonial militia officer. During the 7 Years' War between 1756 and 1763, Washington was honored for his bravery in battle. It established his military prestige. After the war, he returned to Virginia and became an influential local squire. In 1775, the American Revolution broke out. Washington was elected commander-in-chief of the Continental Congress, although initially confronted with repeated defeats by the British regular army, but with his excellent tactics and strong will. At the Battle of Trenton in 1776, at Saratoga in 1777, and the Battle of Yorktown in 1781, to turn the tide and finally lead the American people, win the War of Independence. In 1789, the United States Constitution came into force. Washington became the first president in American history. During his tenure, he established the executive branch for the United States, the principle of separation of legislative and judicial powers. It established the democratic system that has survived in the United States to this day. At the same time, with the help of Hamilton's economic policies, make the American economy grow rapidly, and develop a neutral foreign policy to avoid involvement in European wars, secured the early development of the United States. In 1796, he refused to serve a third term as president, take the initiative to step down and hand over power peacefully, established the term system for the President of the United States. In doing so, he became known as America's Scipio. After retiring, Washington returned to Mount Vernon, living a peaceful farm life. However, in late 1799, he died of laryngitis at the age of 67. To this day, he is still regarded by Americans as the father of the nation. His portrait was printed on the dollar bill, and he was influential throughout American history. From the most powerful country in the world, let's take a look at the most populous country in the world. In the 1970s, the situation in the South China Sea was tense. South Vietnam at that time was supported by the United States' attempt to occupy the Paracel Islands in China. In 1973, the South Vietnamese army began to operate around the Paracel Yongle Islands, testing China's response. In January 1974, the South Vietnamese army dispatched armed troops to land on Chinese islands and reefs, and dispatched naval warships to blockade the surrounding waters. In the face of provocation, the Chinese People's Liberation Army's South China Sea Fleet moved quickly. On January 19th, the Battle of Xisha officially began. South Vietnam dispatched 4 warships with a total of about 1,000 personnel. China has only 4 small frigates, with a total strength of less than 500 personnel. The disparity in strength between the two sides. However, the Chinese Navy has demonstrated high tactical literacy and combat effectiveness. In just 40 minutes, damaged the flagship of South Vietnam, the New Tao, forced it to retreat. They sank Yongxing and Yugui, and the rest fled. The Chinese Navy immediately launched a landing operation, successfully retook the islands occupied by South Vietnam. On February 22nd, the Chinese army took full control of the Xisha Islands. This victory ensured China's sovereignty over the Xisha Islands. Since then, the Xisha Islands have been under the actual jurisdiction of China. Until today, the South China Sea remains a hotspot of international disputes. The Battle of Xisha became China's defense, an important historical event in maritime rights and interests. The time train rolls forward. And on this day in 2021, Lazar's Perseverance rover makes its maiden flight to Mars. This is also the first time in human history powered flight on the surface of Mars. It means we have taken a crucial step towards Mars exploration. Perseverance's mission is not just to explore the Martian landscape, also looking for evidence of past life on Mars. It carries a special device, can analyze the biochemical composition of Martian soil. There are a lot of important things that came out of this. Perseverance successfully generates oxygen on Mars, possibilities for future manned landings. It was also found that Martian craters once contained liquid water, proving that Mars may have been suitable for life in the past, and collected multiple Martian rock samples, planning to send it back to Earth for future research. At present, Perseverance is still operating on Mars, continuous transmission of data to Earth. In the future, its mission could last for more than a decade. More information for human colonization on Mars. Perhaps, one day in the future, we will indeed be able to settle on Mars. History shapes today, and today is also shaping the future. Which event are you most interested in? Please leave a comment to discuss. If you are interested in these little historical stories, remember to like, follow, and click the little bell. Let me accompany you on your journey through history.